Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are thrilled to be joined by Cory Curtis from News 2. Cory, how's it going?
I am a delight this morning. How are you, Jake? And how was the wedding and the following honeymoon?
It was great. It was great. Very relaxing week. The wedding went off great, but I'm glad to be back with you. I heard that things got interesting last Wednesday while I was gone.
We had fun. We had a good discussion.
I did. I listened back to that full hour of you and Parker's debate. I do have some thoughts on that. We'll get to it later on in the show. But it's NFL.
Okay. I was hoping we would.
We will. Oh, we will, because I have picked a side one way or the other after listening.
No,
to the
he
full
hasn't.
hour.
He hasn't picked a side. He's got to hear us both out again today.
Okay.
He has not picked a side.
See, I think Parker's saying
He just listened to the whole show. I think he's good.
I think Parker sees what I wrote on the grid, and he wants a chance to convince me if there's a little teaser of which side that I'm on. So,
well, I'll say this. How about you say what you have a verdict from our discussion, and I will allow Parker to appeal like appealing to the Supreme Court.
That is so nice of you to allow me to speak.
I am excited for that. We will let Parker have his appeal later on.
I'm very grateful. Thank you, Cory.
I will grant your appeal.
I'm willing to hear all sides of every argument, but I did hear, I think the podcast was 38 minutes. I heard 38 minutes of arguments. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to stick with my decision. And we will get into that later, talking about the expansion of the playoff, because I did see yesterday the ACC had their league meetings. And apparently the ACC is fully on board. There is no division in the room. They want a 2014 playoff, which shocking that a conference that couldn't even get their league champion in last year wants a 2014 playoff. Crazy how that works. But Cory, it is.
I think the Big 12 is also pounding the table.
Yeah, it is. It's funny that the teams that wouldn't get a ton of teams in anyway are the ones that want the most teams possible. So it's
yes.
It's going to happen. I feel like it's inevitable at this point, but we'll get into that debate later. Cory, I did just see before we got in here that the international games have officially been released as the NFL schedule trickles out before the full release tomorrow night, and the Tennessee Titans are not going to be playing overseas in 2026. So I thought maybe there was a chance, and as I heard Paul Kaharski say with Robbie and Rexroad, that next year they're not going to take a home game away from the Titans because obviously they're opening the new stadium. I was a little bit surprised that they didn't get an international game this year, but I think in general, I prefer to keep all of the games here in the States. It makes things easier for the team, makes things better for the fans, and they'll play all 17 games stateside this season.
I'm not going to lie. I like turning on my football games at 9 a.m. on Sunday. And truthfully, the Titans being done at noon makes my day a whole lot easier. But I prefer to have them here as well. And, I've had a number of these conversations with people about the Titans schedule and if they'll have a night game, let alone an international game. And I tell everyone, they've won 12 games in 3 years. I don't see it. The NFL doesn't talk about the Titans. Didn't talk about the Titans before. Why are they going to put them on now? I don't think Robert Saleh is a big enough ratings draw for people to go, oh, I want to see the Titans with Robert Saleh. People have seen Robert Saleh. He didn't win with the Jets. All right. Now, if, Andy Reid came to the Titans, that might be a different story. But look, they could get a night game. I'd be stunned.
Okay, so you're saying you'd be stunned if they get a primetime game. I think they're going to get one.
Absolutely.
They didn't get any last year, and I think there are some games that you look at.
They stink.
And right, well, yeah, they're horrible. They've won, as you said, they 12 games in 3 years, 6 games in the last 2. But I do think this year you can at least look at a game or two and say, all right, there's some storylines that might make sense. Maybe not the home schedule. I don't look at any of those games and say that's a needle mover. But I think maybe the Raiders, where it's the previous 2 number 1 picks squaring off, that could be a storyline. And then I keep pointing to the Giants. Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, your 2 first-round pick quarterbacks from last year. Brian Daboll, now on the Titans staff. Brian Callahan, now on the Giants staff. John Harbaugh was kind of, at least reportedly, was considering the Titans before he took the Giants job. So I think there's enough storylines there. Titans-Giants would be my guess if the Titans were to get a primetime game.
I agree with that. I think there was also reports of Harbaugh considering the Titans job even after he had accepted.
Yes,
the Giants job.
When they were trying to sort out the organizational control and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that one makes sense.
Look, I think I agree with you that if they get a primetime game, that's it. And it's what you say, though. It's John Harbaugh and it's the Giants. It's New York. It's the market. It's wanting to put the Giants on in primetime in a game that you think that they can win. Okay. The NFL would view the Titans as nothing more than a sacrificial lamb at that point in that football game. It wouldn't be giving the Titans a primetime game. It would be giving the Giants a primetime game they felt like they could win with maybe some storylines that they could sell on the side.
That is true. And the Giants are always going to get their primetime games regardless of how good they are. They already have announced that they'll get their obligatory Sunday night football game against the Cowboys in week 1. I think the Giants would make sense. And then you never know with divisional games. Sometimes they just throw a random divisional game onto a Thursday night football spot, as we saw for years and years with the Titans and Jaguars. Although back then the rule was everybody had to have at least one, right? Like that was the rule. Everybody.
And you know why they pick them for Thursday night every year?
Why?
Because they wanted to get rid of both of them in one night.
Yeah,
they didn't want to
that's
dedicate
true.
one night to the Titans and one night to the Jaguars. They killed 2 birds in one stone and just got rid of both teams in one night. They just took it on the chin one night and moved it on.
It was every year from probably 2013 to 2016 before the Titans actually started playing decent football, that it was Jaguars and Titans in the color rush uniforms facing off Blake Bortles and Marcus Mariota. Some of those games actually were entertaining, even though the teams weren't very good. Richie from White House on the text line says the Titans are getting a rivalry uniform this year. This past season, the teams who participated in that all got a home primetime game. I would imagine that would be the same for this year. Surely the Titans would at least get a home Thursday night game with them using the rivalry uniform. I have seen that. I know that the rivalry uniforms were not exclusively used for primetime, but I do think that is correct that all of them did get primetime games. So maybe that would be the one thing that would help the Titans, is that they are part of those 8 teams that are getting rivalry uniforms.
If that's the case, then I would say it would probably be the Jets, who they play at home this year. I could see them using the uniforms and the solid connection to the Jets to put that game in primetime. I had that pegged as the Titans home opener.
But I could see that.
They do want to put that game in. If they do want to put that game in primetime because of whatever marketing arm they've got that's saying, hey, we need to market this, especially with the Titans having new uniforms as well, that's possible. So that's the other New York team, and I view as the other possibility. I understand what you say about, the Raiders. It's attractive to us. It's probably attractive to the people in Las Vegas. I don't think it's that attractive to the rest of the NFL. I mean, that would be like telling us, hey, the Cardinals got a new quarterback. We want you to watch them play the Saints.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, okay, it's the NFL. We'll watch it, but we'll pinch our nose and do it.
Well, and they did get rid of the overlapping Monday night doubleheaders, I believe, this year, which I
like the doubleheaders.
Well, that was always a perfect opportunity for them to put the Titans in primetime, because you didn't have to watch them. Yeah, like there was always a secondary option to go over to. That's why we saw them do the Titans and Dolphins in that spot back-to-back years. I believe they got rid of those this year. So
they did.
I think Thursday night is probably the most likely spot for the Titans to end up if they're going to get a primetime game.
Al Michaels won't be happy.
I am very confident they will not be playing a Sunday night game, at least a scheduled Sunday night game. You've got a chance to play your way into it, which I would also say is unlikely, but I don't think that they will find themselves with a Sunday night game tomorrow night.
That would be, I think Sunday night would be the last thing on the docket. I think if you're talking about night game, you're right. Thursday night, Monday night. Although Monday night games have gotten a lot better. The Monday night games for a while.
So
just were
so of
absolutely
the
abysmal.
Thursday night games too. The
Yeah.
NFL
Well,
has
yeah, because Prime said if we're paying for this, you need to give us games.
right.
And,
Right.
And now they're getting them.
Yeah, the NFL has said when they removed that rule that everyone gets a primetime game, they've said that we are going to start putting our best matchups in primetime, which has left the Titans on the outside looking in for the last couple of years. We will see tomorrow night when the schedule is released if the Titans get any primetime games. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to join the conversation, you can text or call in. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll get to some of your reaction on this coming up next. We will also go into some of the other aspects of the schedule before we talk some college football at the bottom of the hour. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelley with you on your Wednesday morning. Getting set for the NFL schedule release tomorrow evening. We will talk some college football this hour as well. Some schedule news there that interesting to say the least. Cory, when you get prepared for the NFL schedule release, do you think it's become too much of a spectacle? Because I do. I saw ESPN's doing like a 4-hour special tomorrow on the schedule, and there's really you can't dive into it that much at this point. And we already know the opponents. It's just about when and where. And I just put out your funny social media videos and let me see who they're playing, and I'm good. How do you think that they've made this into too much of an event? We might have Cory muted.
Thank you. I forgot
There we go.
We were testing out our my microphone during the break, so I apologize for my failure there. But no, I don't think it is, because I think the NFL understands the calendar. Okay.
Yeah.
And they understand how to keep us talking about the NFL.
Right.
The draft is over. The big wave of free agency is over. The teams are set. Now it's the long wait until camp. And so they buy themselves another month of us discussing, will the Titans have a primetime game? Will the Titans go overseas? Because like you said, we know who they're going to play. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. And these schedule release videos, some are better than the others, but some of them are so good that they have people talking for days after the schedule has already been released. So, I'm with you that my interest in the release is probably like 15 minutes. I look at it and go, okay. This is what I thought. Oh, this is a tough stretch of the schedule. This is a good stretch of the schedule.
Yeah.
And then you move on. But it's all part of the calendar and understanding the calendar. And, they are better at it than any league in the world. And there's not a close second. There's not a close second. So, you and I can tamper our excitement over it, but they have made it a talking point now for at least a week.
Yeah.
And it will continue to be a talking point probably through the weekend.
No, and I get what you're saying too, that they love being a year-round reality show, and this is kind of the last major thing before you get to that dead time of summer.
Yep.
And so and they do a nice job of slowly pushing out these games. Monday, you got a couple. Tuesday, you got a couple. Today, it's the international games. And then tomorrow, you get the full reveal. But we'll have to see where they end up. I will say, I think it was PFT, Mike Florio, that reported this yesterday, that the NFL does not require the teams to run their social media release videos by them. So I'm interested to see how many teams mention Vrabel Rossini in their videos.
Oh, wow. What if the Titans did?
Well, they don't play the Patriots. So it
doesn't matter.
If the Titans did it, that would be hilarious, because it would just be a complete stray with no context whatsoever. Yeah. But I do wonder if there are going to be some teams that at the very least, not completely in your face, put it in their video, but make some sort of allusion, some sort of hint at that when they announce when they're playing the Patriots this season.
Yeah, I wonder if they make some veiled shot at A.J. Brown and the blatant, he's going to be traded to the Patriots. But I guess they don't play the Eagles either. Oh, no, they do play the Eagles, don't they?
Yeah, actually, I don't know.
I don't know either. I can't remember. I just know they play the Giants, so that's where I put that together. So, no, I don't think they do. I
will check.
But, yeah, so I want them to take shots at all these people, but somebody's going to do it. Probably like the Chargers or somebody.
Right. The Chargers,
some of them,
they're the most unhinged of the teams.
Some of the videos, they get too cute, and I don't understand them most of the time. And some of them are just like too slow and too boring.
Yeah.
My favorite will always be the Titans man on the street one, which I know was supposedly a a ripoff of something somebody else did,
Yeah.
I don't care. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
No, they crushed that, and other teams have tried to catch that lightning in a bottle again, and it just never works the same as it did the first time. The Titans.
Well, you remember that was their secondary video,
right? The first one was at Roberts Western
Honky Tonk one.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it got overshadowed. This major production that they put together that they spent millions of hours on was overshadowed by someone saying like Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that. I can't remember what they said.
Right. Yeah. No, it was hilarious that they did. It was like a drone shot through Roberts Western World with all these celebrities and former players. And that was their big schedule reveal. And it got overshadowed by a TikTok that probably took them 2 hours to go film. I apologize. I was confused. I thought you were asking if the Patriots played the Eagles. The Titans do play the Eagles. Yes, obviously.
So we can get an AJ Brown shot in there.
Yes. The Titans do play the Eagles. I thought you were asking about the Patriots, who do not play the Eagles. But yeah, I'm excited to see some of those social media videos. That's always one of the things that you look forward to most with the schedule reveal. Cory, I asked this yesterday. And I want to know your thoughts. Do you have the Titans opponents in front of you?
I do not, but I can pull it up.
If you want to pull them up, I want to know how many games do you think the Titans will be favored in this year? This probably
won't take long.
Right. This is not how many games do you think they can win, because I think it's a different question. I think if I look, the Titans are probably a 7-win team, but I had a number on games I think they're favored in. I want to see if you agree. Let me know when you've got it.
Well, they were favored. Were they not favored in 0 games last year? Or did they manage to be favored at 1 at the end of the season?
I don't know about what was the one game towards the end of the Saints game at the end of the year. I wonder if they were favored slightly in that.
No, I don't think so, because the Saints had begun to play well.
You might be right, but all of that obviously changes throughout the season. Once the Titans were horrible, I think, you realize they weren't going to be favored in many games. But let's say that they set the lines tomorrow when it comes out. How many games do you think the Titans are favored in?
Yeah. So this is preseason Titans being favored in, because it can change, obviously, as the year goes along. I think they'll be favored at home against Cleveland.
Yep. I had that one.
Washington is a tough call.
I think that's a very winnable game.
I think it's in the pick'em range. I think it's 1.5 either way. I think they'll be favored against the Jets since they still don't have a quarterback. Wow, so that's already 2 games I have them favored in.
Yep.
We already see how much easier the schedule is. I don't think they'll be favored in any of she won't. I don't think I think Las Vegas will also be in the pick'em range.
I agree. That was the one that I was a little bit hazy on, but I think just because it's in Vegas, they might get the bump one way or the other.
Are they really? Was Detroit the last place finisher?
Yes, they were.
No, that was Minnesota.
No, Detroit.
No, Minnesota was.
No, Detroit was the last place finisher in the NFC East or NFC North. Sorry.
No, Minnesota was. Minnesota had a dreadful year last year.
How would we be playing? Or how would the Titans have the Lions? It was. I think they might have been tied because the Lions kind of fell off down the stretch.
Who's their 17th opponent? I guess that was my other question.
They both went 9-8.
Okay. Wow, that really stinks. That really stinks that you got the Lions in that scenario.
Exactly.
Flip a coin. Which one do you want?
The Titans 100% would prefer the Vikings, at least based on the quarterback situation.
Yeah, because they'll have Kyler Murray this year. But yeah, so look, this is way more optimistic than last year. I'm saying they're going to be favored in 2 games, and 2 other games will be a pick'em. So, it could be as many as 4.
So I said 2. I think they're going to be favored in 2, the Browns and Jets games. But I think Steelers will honestly be kind of close to a pick'em too. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be all that good this year.
I agree with you, but I don't think the line will reflect that. I think the line will probably be in like the Pittsburgh by 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think that the Steelers will be favored in that game. But yeah, I think it's 2. But it is funny to say I think they're going to be favored in 2 games and underdogs in 15. And I still feel pretty optimistic about this team being a lot better this year. It's just, they are going to be viewed by the NFL and I think by odds makers heading into the season as still one of the worst teams in football.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have to.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they'll have to change it.
I like you are. You are until you aren't.
Right.
I mean, that's just. I mean, look, 3 years in a row is not a coincidence. That wasn't. Hey, things didn't go our way this year. There are teams that could say like, well, just this didn't go our way, and then that guy got hurt, and then the schedule was really tough. That has not been the case for this football team. But things can change a lot in a hurry. We've seen it with Washington. We've seen it with New Orleans. With New England. The Bears have made a pretty quick turnaround last year as well. So can the Titans be the next one? To me, they don't have to be. They just have to be better. They need to be competitive for 17 games.
Right. 100%. They have to find a way to not be a pushover like they have been for the last couple of years. And hopefully that leads to a large increase in wins. But I think to start, you just got to be competitive in the games you should be competitive in. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to the phone lines. Trey has called in. Trey, thanks for calling. What you got for us this morning?
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great, Trey.
Hey, I just want to say that, for the last 3 or 4 years, we have not been able to develop a decent core squad of cornerbacks. And I think it's a travesty to where, we might have a good defense, but then our cornerbacks get blowed out, can't, track the balls, and that's been a really, really big issue here in Tennessee. We might, be up in the game and they'll blow the game, and that's something that we have to really, really dig deep and get. I want to see some players like Cortland Finnegan, like go out and fight, for this team, and we haven't had that. We've had decent quarterbacks here in the past. Jake Locker, was a decent quarterback. We've had decent quarterbacks, but the back end of our defense has been terrible. And we need, to really, really dig deep and get some players in there. Hopefully they did a good thing picking, players to be able to do that. But they've been trash lately. I hope Coach Solid hears this message because I'm going to give it to him straight up. We've been trash back there, Coach. And another thing I want to say that, we could have picked Diego Pavia up for some Chiba Hut, dude. And we let that slip away. No controversy, quarterback controversy. Everything would have picked up. The marketing would have been good. We could have got him for nothing. And why do Baltimore always have to get our good players after they leave us? That's crazy. I love y'all.
How do you think?
What?
How do you think Diego Pavia and Cam Ward would get along? I think it would be one of two ways. At each other's throats. No, let me finish. At each other's throats or best friends.
Yeah, it's one of those two.
I think they could actually be best friends.
Hey, you know what? God is my witness. I met Diego Pavia on the Friday draft. I met him. I met Diego Pavia in Hermitage at Chiba Hut. And I told him, I said, why aren't you up in Pittsburgh at the draft? And he was like, I'm going to be here with my family. I'm just picking up some food. I met Diego. We could have got him for pennies. He wanted to stay here in Tennessee, man. I'm telling you, I know this man. I'm telling you, we could have got Diego Pavia for some Chiba Hut over in Hermitage. Hey,
connected by Chiba Hut.
Hey, some Chiba Hut. That's what he ate. You could have got him. Miss Amy could have got him some Chiba Hut and laid that on there, and he would have been like, "Yep, I'm signing."
Thank you for the call,
Chiba,
Trey.
Y'all. Hey, I
Chiba
love
Hut's
y'all.
about to be.
You have a
Thanks,
good one, Trey.
Chiba Hut's about to be busier today than it's ever been. 'cause
Yeah, there
everybody's
you
just
go.
Like, what is this Chiba Hut place?
I mean,
But yeah,
as always with a Trey call, just so much to unpack. I agree with him that the cornerbacks have not been great, but that's why you go sign Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott, and you hope that that is at least a short-term fix for that position. My favorite part of that call, though, Corey, and I would think you would agree, is when he went to talk about decent quarterbacks the Titans have had. The first example was Jake Locker.
yeah. Well, and he wanted a cornerback. He said Cortland Finnegan, who has been retired for a very long time. So so the problem, and what he talks about is right. They have not been able to groom young cornerbacks.
Yes.
They've had some decent ones. I mean, Roger McCreary is not a bad football player. He's still playing, and I wouldn't be upset if he was still on this football team.
Yeah.
Maybe he was overdrafted a little bit, but I don't hold that against him. I still think he was a reliable player on this football team. Christian Fulton, he couldn't stay healthy. I mean, you can't predict that always.
Yep.
And so that there was some bad luck there, but those are just two guys that we're talking about. So the bottom line is it's not that they haven't been able to develop them. They haven't drafted good ones.
Yeah.
And then, that they've been able to keep on the roster. And so they keep doing this quick fix. They just did it 2 years ago where they brought in Chidobe Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
And they better hope the results this time are a hell of a lot better than they were last time because, look, Chidobe seemed like a really nice guy, but I couldn't tell you because we never saw him.
Yeah.
He never really played. And L'Jarius Sneed, the same thing. I mean, that was the Batman scene, in The Dark Knight where the Joker just lit money on fire.
Yep.
Rand Carthon threw a match on tens of millions of dollars with those two guys.
Yes. They tried to fix it through the draft. You mentioned Fulton, you mentioned McCreary, Caleb Farley in there as well. And none of those guys worked out.
Horrible.
None of them could stay healthy. Roger McCreary was fine, but he was just fine. And then, of course, they tried to fix it through trades and free agency. That didn't work, too. Let's hope Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott are much better. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get into some college football coming up next. It is schedule release week in the NFL, but they just released a schedule, a little tidbit of the college football schedule for September, and there's one game that all eyes will be on in mid-September. We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley with you on your Wednesday morning. We'll get back into the NFL in just a bit, but I did want to talk about some schedule announcements for college football. We do know the first two college game day sites, Clemson, LSU, and Baton Rouge week 1, and then is it Ohio State, Texas week 2 in Austin are the two they announced. But, Cory, I wanted to go to week 3. LSU at Ole Miss will be a primetime game in Oxford. And I've got to say, they might have to send in the Army or something for that. Lane Kiffin is not going to be safe all night long standing on the sideline.
Well, you know what? I'll give Lane Kiffin some credit. He's not going to go in hiding.
No, he is not.
He has come out firing with an aggressive defense for his departure.
Yes, I find it funny after spending close to a decade there that now he's bringing this up after he left. But yeah, he is taking shots back at Oxford, at Ole Miss. I am going to venture to say there will be lots of items thrown on the field that night in the direction of Mr. Kiffin.
Mustard?
Yeah, mustard.
No mustard packets.
Batteries. Yeah. He has brought a lot of this on himself with the way he's handled it, of course. I mean, leaving Ole Miss before the playoff run and basically saying that he could never win a national championship there, and then watching them go to the national semifinals without him. And now his comments that you alluded to in the it was a Vanity Fair article that was circulating, but I believe it was it Marty Smith or somebody else who conducted the interview?
I don't know.
That led to him saying that. So yeah, he's going in guns a-blazing. September 19th in Oxford. That is going to be, I don't know if they will send College Game Day there for that, but they should, because it's going to be crazy.
Got a pretty good feeling that the set is already being constructed for September 21.
Yeah.
No, look, it's not going to be volatile. It's not going to be anything but one thing. It's going to be emotional for the fans and for the players. I mean, the players, feel betrayed. And for a long time, I would agree with them. They were betrayed. But that's not the case anymore, because players now move even more freely than coaches do. So, his betrayal is no worse than the 50% of college football or more that enters the transfer portal each year. So, I understand fans are upset, especially the ones that sink their money into the program. And this will sound bizarre. I'm not sitting here defending Lane Kiffin. He has conducted himself the way he has conducted himself, and I think that says plenty. But like you said, he was also there for close to a decade and took that program closer to the national title than they have been in a very long time. I think when the emotions settle in a few years, there will be some people who may acknowledge that Lane Kiffin also deserves a thank you.
Yeah, maybe a while down the road. I think it might take some time for Ole Miss fans to get to that point, but it will definitely not have
generations die.
Right. Yeah. Like 2072. It's like, hey, looking back, Lane Kiffin might have been the best coach in our program history. That time will not have come by mid-September when LSU makes their trip to Oxford. So I am excited for that. That is going to be one of the games of the season just because of everything that surrounds it. And again, going to be a night game. Matthew in Nashville says the tweet from the Oxford Police Department after they announced, it was like a sarcastic yay from them it's going to be their busiest night of the year. And 4312 says, can't wait for the Vegas odds of what he gets hit with.
what item he gets hit with first?
Yeah, what
like you say, battery, mustard bottle, golf ball.
And all of them are in play, including some maybe more creative things that the Oxford, the Ole Miss students will probably be thinking of for the next 4 months. 615-737. Go ahead.
I say they should open the game. Remember that awful video he put out when he was at Florida Atlantic about coming and watching the Owls play, where like every word that came out of his mouth was completely monotonous and horrible.
Yes.
They should put that on the jumbotron before like as Ole Miss as LSU takes the field.
Yes, it makes it so much better that this game is in Oxford this year. Like, it obviously it would have gotten storylines if it was in Baton Rouge, just playing his former team, but having it in Oxford and that entire university standing against him is going to be electric. So the ratings of that game probably going to be some of the highest that we see early on in the college football season. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The 615 Open Golf Tournament might be sold out, but you can bid on all kinds of awesome experiences to directly support Folds of Honor at 615open.com/auction. Have an unforgettable time while supporting a great cause. 615open.com/auction. When we come back, we will get back into Cory and Parker's debate. I have my ruling that I've made after listening to their hour of debate. I will let Parker appeal when we come back. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley with you. It is now time to revisit the debate from last week that Cory and Parker had. I saw this on social media while I was on my honeymoon. I was able to finally listen to the full hour yesterday. And I am going to make my ruling on who I believe is correct. Again, if you missed the argument last week, you can find it on our podcast or on our YouTube. Basically, the question was about expansion of the college football playoff. Parker believes that the group of five should not be involved in the true college football playoff because they have no chance to win and they should get their own tournament elsewhere to go compete for a trophy. Cory says that's ridiculous and that they would rather win a game against Georgia and lose the next one than compete for a meaningless trophy. Here are my takeaways from this. I agree with Parker on a couple of things. Mainly, I agree with your point that football and basketball is apples and oranges. Of football, because of the ability to physically dominate your opponent, having different levels of competition facing off against each other does make it much harder to have an upset than it does in basketball, where yes, size, speed, strength all play roles. But as we saw with, UMBC and Virginia, a hot shooting night and you can beat anybody at any given time. I agree with that point. But the programs that you are trying to relegate to another tournament, they don't want that. They would much rather stick with the current system where James Madison, who probably never dreamed that they would ever participate in a college football playoff, got to go play in one of those games. And yes, they got smacked. They did put up 35, 36 points in that game.
But how many of those points were garbage time?
Sure. But they were able to show on a national stage and go play against Oregon. They would rather that than basically be relegated back to the FCS, right? And that's what it would become. The group of five would become the new FCS, and the Power Five would be the real national championship. So I am with Cory, even though I agree that those teams really don't have a chance to go win a championship. They should be included in the actual college football playoff rather than put into a separate one for the group of five.
All right, so how is this going to work? Is Cory going to go first and then I rebut, or how's this going to work?
We'll let Cory go first,
okay.
And then we'll start off the next hour with your appeal.
Okay.
How about that?
That works.
The only thing I'm going to say is this, because I'm sure Parker's got plenty to say. I'm sure it'll be smart, and I'm sure no, I'm not joking. I'm sure it'll be smart, and I'm sure it'll be well thought out because he's had some time to stew on it, and he'll have and we'll see if he can chip away at me. But I continue to disagree with both of you on your notion that basketball and football are entirely different. And you brought up, the Virginia loss. How many consecutive games did number 1 seeds beat number 16 seeds in before that day? The number is 135. 135 times in a row, 16s beat ones. And no one brought up, hey, we really should stop having 16 seeds because they don't stand a chance. Look, it is. They would have to play for at least 100 years for the group of 6 to lose 135 straight games in this tournament, and they wouldn't. Okay, and you know what? I'd like to see them given the opportunity. All right, and again, we're not talking about having 4 group of 6 teams in here. We're talking about 1, maybe 2, and again, we're talking about a 24 team player format, and they've got to earn their way there. They've got to be high enough in the rankings to get there. Okay, so they earn their way there, and then they've got to prove that they can win one. And maybe we give them 136 chances, like we did 16 seeds in the basketball tournament.
See, I get what you're saying in terms of, yes, some of those games between high seeds and low seeds are uncompetitive, but that's
some of them.
No, a lot of them, but that's UMBC is the MAC with 2 A's champion, the Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
Imagine using the champion of that conference in football and having them play Alabama. There's just
Okay.
absolutely zero
But they're
chance.
still invited.
No, I know.
Yes, but they're still invited. And nobody's saying to not invite them. And you're talking about teams that are much better than that not being invited. You're talking about not inviting Gonzaga because they're not in the Power Four conferences.
I'm agreeing with you that I think they should totally be invited, but I do disagree on the point that like football is
Same thing with baseball, just
Right.
the completely different sports.
football has so
Baseball has far more upsets than any of the other
Yes.
teams.
because there's so much randomness with baseball. It's a round
Yeah,
ball,
so,
it's a round bat.
This is making my point for me. The 16 seeds didn't lose 135 consecutive times in baseball.
Yeah.
Cory,
Okay.
well, we're getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, and I'll bring us back to the main point in the 10 o'clock hour. But how long did Siena lead Duke this year?
Did they win?
They were this close to doing so.
Did they win?
No, they didn't.
Okay. So it doesn't matter.
But it is a different. That's the whole. It's a different sport. You can get hot and beat a team. That's just how it works.
Right.
In football, you can't do that.
Oh, you can't?
No,
Ask Michigan
because it's about physicality.
State.
Who's more physical?
Okay.
I think it takes so much.
This is a stupid argument. Stupid argument. Look, we could go year by year and find upsets. Okay, they happen. All right, go ahead. I'm sure you're going to annihilate whatever I have to say. It's fine, but predetermining outcomes and predetermining teams is not worthy because they're not in the conferences that you like is ridiculous. I'm not talking about inviting Nicholls State to dance, okay? I'm talking about inviting teams that have played their way into the top 25 that play in a lesser conference and giving them the chance to prove that they are that good.
I agree with Cory on the group of five should not be relegated to their own tournament. I will give Parker a chance to change my mind when we come back. 615-737-1025. First hour wrapping up. In the second hour, we'll continue this conversation and also get back into the NFL with a look around the AFC South. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game, second hour on your Wednesday morning. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelley with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Last week, Cory and Parker went at it about college football playoff expansion, how it should be handled, with the group of 5 being included. This past year, of course, 2 group of 5 teams made the tournament with Tulane and James Madison. I gave my verdict after listening to all their arguments from last week. I was not in, but I believe Cory is correct that you cannot remove the group of 5 from the tournament because you don't think they have a chance to win. In my mind, it's because they wouldn't want it that way, because it's basically sending them down to the minor leagues. They'd like to play with the big boys, even if they know it is almost impossible for them to actually win a college football playoff championship. Parker Kelley is standing behind the board right now.
Just to give you a little visual, Cory, I am standing behind the board.
He is standing up. He has lifted the mic.
I can see it.
I guess we're getting ready to hear the appeal from Parker Kelley.
I'm acting like I'm at the court, Yes. I'm giving my appeal. So,
counsel, please step.
I feel like I feel like he's the bull in the stall, and someone's about to whack him from behind and let him loose.
Yeah, there you go. We've got our intern Grayson back there. Just
he's had to kind of calm me down a little bit. Like, I actually asked him to go get an ice pack for my forehead. So,
all right, Parker, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the saying that I kind of grew up with is, sometimes smart people say casual things. Casual people rarely say smart things. The good news is I don't think you or Jake are casual people. You're just saying a very casual thing. So I talked to Chris Lowe yesterday. We can all agree that he's a very respectable college football mind.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
He said that he talked to Kyle Whittingham, the head coach at Michigan, and he said by 2027, between 10 to 15 teams in college football will be spending $50 million on their roster. That is a staggering number. And we've all heard the number about LSU, right? They're spending around $40 million on this year's team. Actually, I think that number is between 45 and 50. So they're kind of they're the only ones that are kind of doing this right now. So you look at that number, right? And you think, okay, 15 teams in the sport will be spending $50 million. How many teams are there in Division I FBS? 138?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do quick math on the air, but I know that's far less
over 10%.
than, yeah. So we have 10% of the sport that's going to spend $50 million on a roster. And just because you spend the money doesn't automatically guarantee that you will have a national championship. Just look at Florida State from a couple years ago when they went undefeated,
Tennessee.
right? Yeah. And the year after, they got basically their entire team, I'd say about 70% from the transfer portal, and it blew up right in their face. So just because you get the ingredients doesn't mean you're going to cook a good meal. Okay, so we're looking at that number, right? 10 to 15, $50 million. What on earth makes you think that UL Monroe, that MTSU, who had to go back to one helmet this year, they had to cut the rest of their helmets so that they could afford to field a team, they're playing the same sport as Oregon, as Ohio State, as Texas, who just spent a buttload of money on their roster? I'm not saying that, they're going to go get blown out in the college football playoff. That's never been my stance, because we can look at Tennessee and Ohio State a couple years ago, and Tennessee got waxed in Columbus. So if you use that as your point of view, you've already lost the argument. What I'm saying is they're not playing the same sport. They're on uneven footing. So that's why I believe the group of 5 should not be included in the playoff.
Well, if that is your argument, then we should also not include the teams I talked about in the basketball tournament, because financially they are not on the same level. Okay, there's no. You cannot compare Siena's budget to Duke's budget in college basketball. So we should no longer include them in the tournament because they can't financially compete.
See, this is why you can't compare to basketball, because St. John's doesn't have a football team. So
I didn't say St. John's. I said Siena.
I know, but
I said Siena.
You can't compare, because there are some teams that don't even have football programs. So all their money is going towards basketball.
Okay, let me ask you this. All right, Parker, which team in college football last year had the most expensive roster in college football?
Last year, I would say
Texas or Ohio State.
Yeah, Texas, Ohio State.
Those are both incorrect.
Who was it?
It was LSU.
Oh.
They spent more money than anyone in college football last year on their roster. That did not guarantee them a spot in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, exactly. That makes my point for me. That, yes, despite spending the most money, that doesn't mean you're a worthy playoff team. And despite having a lower budget, it doesn't mean you can't come in and compete. If you're gonna exclude all these teams, you're gonna exclude programs like Boise State. Okay, you're gonna exclude other programs like. Look, I know Memphis isn't good, but if they decided they wanted to be good, there are people in Memphis who could sink a massive amount of money into that program. They haven't done so at this point.
This is such a straw house argument because we all know these teams are not playing the same sport. And if you truly believe, even a fifth grader knows better than that.
Look, I know they're not on the same level on a daily basis.
Theoretically, they're competing for the same trophy. I'm sorry, but Western Kentucky's never going to win a national championship in
football
format.
or basketball. Yet they're allowed to compete for it in basketball. You're making my point for me. All right,
but we've already agreed that we can't compare. We can't cross over sports like
we
this.
Can compare.
I'm just want to talk about football.
They lost 100.
I don't want to cross over into basketball.
The bottom 16 seeds lost 135 times a row in basketball,
and you can keep throwing that number in my face, and I'm going to come right
Why
back
doesn't
to
it
football.
matter? Why doesn't it matter? Why doesn't it matter? Why don't you want to exclude 16 seeds if they can't come in and compete?
There is so much randomness involved with basketball that is just not the case in football.
There is no randomness at all.
Physicality.
No, look, you're talking about 135 times in a row. There is nothing random about 135 times in a row. What's random is the one time that team did win.
And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what's going to happen with the future.
To not only include them, you make the field bigger.
I don't know what's going to happen with the future of the
NCAA
SEC
tournament.
and the sample size is too small. It's been 2 years.
Well, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to pull away and create their own championship anyway, so this whole argument will be moot at some point. But I will die on this mountaintop making this argument. You continue to say these two things are different when they're not. Both teams have, we know, very little chance to move on, but both have also earned the right to compete for the same championship, which we know they're not playing on a level playing field.
So Jake,
it's part of the magistry of it.
Cory thinks that I'm taking an anti-group of five stance, and I think I'm taking a pro because I want them to compete for a trophy they can actually
win.
Want
them to compete for garbage. I want them to compete for a trophy they can actually win
because I'm not stupid enough to believe they're competing for the same trophy as Georgia.
Okay, look, you're telling me, okay, hey, Cory, you can go compete for $100,000 over here with these guys. Most of them are better than you, but probably all of them are better than you, or you can go compete for that. Or, hey, I got a bag of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches over here. There's a bunch of guys, one with one arm and one with one leg, and you could play them and win the PB&J. Why don't you go over there and play with them? Oh, yeah, Parker. Yeah, I'm going to take them to the hole all day long. Let's go. Let's do it.
I'm going
to hold up my peanut butter and jelly sandwich when I'm over and say, winner.
I guarantee if you go up to John Sumrall, who coached at Tulane last year, or Bob Chesney, who was at James Madison, and you inject some truth serum into them, they would tell you they're not on the same level as Oregon. They're not on the same level as Ole Miss.
Parker, of course they're not. Of course
why are they included? It's stupid.
Oh my God, you're a moron. You're a moron. You can't understand this. You can't understand competition, the desire to be great. Why can't this get through your skull? I'm sorry I called you a name. It wasn't the right thing to do, but I don't understand how you cannot understand how people want to achieve for greatness.
Because as
John
a competitor,
would not
want to
compete.
Win championships. I don't want to be invited to a league I'm not fit to play in and get blown out.
So you want to only play games you know you can win.
I don't want to play games with one arm tied behind my back. That's what I want.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That's what's happening. Do you have like fog lenses over your eyes? You can't see this?
No, I don't.
Let me interject here because Parker, I agree with you, and I think it's obvious that, yes, if you asked John Sumrall or Bob Chesney last year, did they feel like they were on the same level as the team?
No, they don't.
They would say no. But James Madison, as an institution, was playing for the PB&J National Championship a few years ago, and they won one, an FCS National.
And they moved.
And like, I don't want to say the FCS National Championship is the PB&J, but it is not. It is not the highest honor in the country, and they decided to move and go up to the FBS. I think that shows you that these institutions, these schools would much rather play for the big trophy, even if they know that they
No.
can't
Here's
win
what's happening. North Dakota State moved to the Mountain West so that they can get more money to be infused in their football program. So maybe one day down the road, although it's probably not going to happen, they can get close enough to be able to compete. But it's not going to happen.
James Madison just did it.
They made the tournament, and what happened?
They lost, and
they're changing the goal line.
There is a big difference between having a chance to win a game and having a chance to win the championship. I do agree.
Yes.
I agree with Cory on the point that, you look at the NCAA basketball tournament and say, how many of those teams realistically think they can win the whole thing?
None.
Really, it's probably the top 4 seeds in each
I
region.
thought we were talking about the bottom seeds.
No. Like the lower seeds, even once you get down to like the 7 or 8 seeds, even those teams know they don't have a chance to actually win the whole thing. And obviously there are exceptions here and there. The NCAA basketball tournament is more random than the college football playoff is.
Thank you.
Because it is,
there's nothing random about 130.
Cory, the game of basketball is more random than the game of football. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because I can be the hottest shooter in the country and then go 0 for 9 from 3. That happens. Milan Momcilovic against Tennessee. What happened to him? He's the best three-point shooter in the country, but didn't make a single 3 versus Tennessee.
Yes, there is a degree of more randomness. They also play 3 times as many games.
So you just agreed with us.
I agree. There is a bit more of randomness, but there is not a bit more of randomness in what happens in the NCAA basketball tournament. The group of 6 is allowed to participate much more frequently in that tournament. They are given many more bites at the apple, giving them a chance to win. You don't want to give the football teams any chances to take a bite at that apple because you don't think they can win. My point is this. We don't think that Baltimore, Maryland County, or whatever their name is going to beat Virginia. All right. No one thinks it. No one looks at the variables and says, well, if they get cold and they get hot, they're a 30-point underdog. 30-point underdog. All right. Everyone agrees they're going to get destroyed. All right. But we play that game anyway.
I look at this and say that Cory is right. They should not be removed because here's the argument I will make is what does more for a program? If JMU had beaten Oregon last year, if they go out and beat Oregon in Autzen Stadium, is their program going to be helped more by that than winning the group of 6 championship? I think so. I think being on ESPN or ABC and winning a game like that does more for a program, for a university, and for a team than going and winning something that's on, CBS Sports Network or something as the group of 6 national champion.
And I would counter with this. You look at Tulane teams in the past, and when they've had success, what has happened to that team the next year? They go and they get poached by the Power 4 schools. So coaches who do a really good job developing at these group of 5 programs oftentimes get punished the next year because they'll just enter the portal. Wayne Knight at James Madison, best player on that team last year, followed his coach to UCLA. This type of stuff happens all the time. So no, it doesn't give them the chance to build that longevity.
615-737-1025. We got some of your reaction on this. We will wrap up this conversation coming up next because I know this could spiral into the rest of the show.
Look, the last thing I want to say is this. Parker, I'm sorry. I called you a moron, and you're not a moron. I
got thick skin, Cory. It's okay. I still love you.
You're a smart guy, and we're having a heated argument, and I think that is awesome.
And you know
for
what?
Listeners,
we'll hug it out.
It's
afterwards.
Awesome for us. But I just want you to know, and I want everyone to hear that was uncalled for. I'm a grown man, and I need to keep myself in check more. And I may believe, no matter how passionately I may believe in what I say, that was uncalled for, and I apologize.
Apology accepted.
We will get to your reaction. There's a lot of, as you would expect, polarizing reaction to this. We will get to it coming up next. Your phones, your text, 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley with you. Continuing the conversation around college football playoff expansion, we have, for the second straight week, the show has gotten to a very heated debate about whether the group of 5 or 6, including the new Pac-12, should be included in the college football playoff. Time to get to your reaction on our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keegan has been waiting patiently. Keegan, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, fellas. Cory, hello.
Hello.
Once again, I got to say I'm on Parker's side. I'm sorry about that. It's nothing
You
against
can have
you,
your
but
side. That's fine.
Thank you. Really, one of the biggest things I got to say about it is the conversation's kind of changed a little bit this week. Last week, it was a lot more, what would you rather? If you were in that position, what would you rather do? And so I've thought about that question a lot since last week. And I think Parker, he kind of, jumped the gun on me, but he made a good point. If you are a group of 5 school, and let's say the example from last week, Memphis plays Georgia, they beat Georgia, they lose, everyone talks about beating Georgia for the rest of the time. That very next season, your head coach is gone, and like Parker said, your roster is going to get pilfered by the Power 4. I think that's one of the biggest reasons. If you're not already in the Power 4, if you are a group of 5, you see that as like a danger nowadays in the NIL area. You can go do something good, but good luck doing it the very next year because your roster is going to be taken from you. Your head coach is going to be taken from you, and you're going to have to start all over from scratch. Good luck hiring somebody. Who knows if they're even a good coach? It's going to take you 2-3 years to find out anyway. So
Keegan,
I'm saying all that.
let me ask you a question.
What's up? Yeah, go right ahead.
Let me ask you a question. Whether you beat Georgia or not, whether you hoist the peanut butter and jelly trophy at the end or not, if you're good, someone is going to poach your players and poach your coach. And Kurt Signetti being the perfect example. James Madison didn't win a college football playoff game, but they got very good very quickly. Indiana took him. He took his players with. Over 50% of the players in college football under the transfer portal. Okay. So whether you're winning a ton of games or not, you're losing players. Okay. Even the good teams are now losing players as players seek out opportunity. So fear of success is not a reason to strive for success.
Oh, whoa. It's not a fear of success. More so what I'm saying is you're right. If you are a good team and you have good players, period, you're going to get poached. There's no doubt about that at all. The way I'm looking at it is on the back end, right? You look at it on the back end with me. Once the coach is gone, once your players are gone, you bring in a new coach, you have to fill up that roster. Let me say this. Is it easier to fill a roster with good players if you are considered the top of your class? Or is it easier to refill that roster with good players if you're a group of 5 and you still got the Georgias, the LSUs of the world out there, the Alabamas, the Tennessees, Ole Miss, Arkansas? If you're still a group of 5 and you're playing against the Arkansas and all that of the world, you go lose, you do whatever, it's going to be harder to replenish that roster on the back end than, say, if it was all split up. Memphis is probably any team, Tulane even, top 5 group of 5 team. It's going to be easier for a top 5 group of 5 when they're split up than a group of 5 when they're all in one big pool.
As you said, and I said, they will always be poached. That is not going to change. Those other schools will always have more money to spend, including them in the playoff, or not including them in the playoff doesn't change that at all. You come back each season and do the best you can. Those rules are the same for everyone. So this fear of losing players, but are they really equal? Coaches,
is it easier for Georgia versus
no, they're not equal. Of course it's easier for Georgia. The world is not a fair place. All right. It's always going to be easier for some people.
To Parker's point, you make it more fair. You try to add fairness to it. You split them. I'm not saying I'm really on.
You're not making it fair. You're excluding. You're not. You're looking at them and saying you can't play with us. Go play on that other
because they can't. And if that sounds rude, I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
Okay, but why aren't you telling that to the 16 seeds in the NCAA tournament?
Because we've already crossed this bridge. It's not the same sport.
No, we haven't. You haven't.
I don't know why we're talking.
And
about
you know what?
And
because the point is, you don't mind 16 seeds in the basketball tournament losing 135 times in a row. For some reason,
aren't there
that's
like 400
okay.
teams in college basketball?
Oh my God.
Versus like 130.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
okay. Look, if you guys just want to close your eyes and put your fingers in your ears and go blah 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 blah, that's fine. I'm talking about reality here. Because you don't want to talk in reality. You have your mind made up, and that's all you're going to do. I'm telling you, you're telling me they can't play, and I'm saying there are other fields that we look at where teams who can't play are allowed to play.
I am still – Parker has not convinced me that they should be excluded yet.
And if I have to lose one, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, but I'm taking the rest of 102.5 with me. So,
well, let's go back to the phones. Larry in Columbia has called in. Larry, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm just going to talk about football. I ain't going to put basketball in this.
Great.
Because it is a different sport. Okay? Okay.
I agree with you, Larry.
If I'm in charge, I would put if one of the Power 5 football teams are ranked in the top 25, and they would be able to play with the big boys.
The group of 6, you mean?
If not, they should have a tournament of their own.
I completely agree with you. They have to earn their way in.
That's a fair compromise.
We talked about this. They have to be ranked high enough to get in. They just don't get an automatic team in. They have to earn their way there.
We'll take Boise State from a couple years ago. I think Boise State, okay, I'm fine with it. But Tulane and James Madison this year, absolutely not.
So and thank you for the call, Larry. I think he makes a very good point of they have to be ranked high enough, which, Parker, I'm going to try and get you right here. Who would you rather have had in the tournament this past year? James Madison or Duke?
That's tough.
Those were the two options. The committee chose James Madison.
Well, I just think it all started with the wrong guidelines. That never should have been.
I agree with you there. Yeah.
Do I think Duke might have been more competitive?
I will tell you, I'd rather have.
Go ahead.
No, I would rather have had Notre Dame and Texas in the tournament.
I agree with you.
Yes.
That's what I would say is, as I think Larry was trying to put, the group of 5, there should not be a dedicated group of 5 spot if they are not ranked, right?
They have to be ranked high enough to earn the spot.
What, like top 12?
No, not top 12.
24 teams, they got to be top 24.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, that's a whole separate can of worms. Are you in?
Well, that's what we're talking about.
I think we're
going off the current format. We don't have 24
yet. But because
we were talking about expanding the field.
Because the committee is subjective, there's no way to prove, they moved James Madison into the rankings at the end of last year to say, okay, they're the highest ranked conference champion, the 5th highest ranked conference champion. So you could never say, oh, if they're outside the top 20, they don't get a bid, because if the committee wants to put them in the top 20, they'll put them in the top 20. If they don't, then they won't. But I agree with you. Last year, I would have preferred, hey, sorry, Duke, you're not good enough. And Tulane, you get the auto bid from the group of 5. We're not putting James Madison in. We're putting Notre Dame in.
Let me say something quick on that, because if you allow Duke into that field, and we have those awful guidelines that the CFP gave us, so we have to go off of that. But if we let Duke into that 12-team playoff and they had 5 losses, you completely devalue the regular season, that's how I view the prism of college
football. And they would have
football.
lost by 30.
Yes.
I don't know how they would go about this, but I think that might be the best way to do it. So last year, Tulane was the highest ranked group of 5 champion. They got in. I'm okay with that. But I think in a situation like last year where the ACC champion was not ranked, they should lose that bid. And it should not be given out to another conference champion. Give it to the next best at-large team. I don't know how they would go about that with setting those parameters, but I think that would be the best way to do it.
I think Parker and I were discussing some of this offline. Not my argument, and maybe this changes the goal line to you guys some, and I didn't iterate it properly, is that the group of 6 be given the opportunity to play in the college football playoff, not be guaranteed a spot, but be given an opportunity to earn their way in and play. So if you're a group of 6 and you go 13-0 or whatever it is, and you're ranked, 14th in the country in a 26 team or 24 or an 18 field, you have earned the right to get into that tournament. I also asked, I said I would, even make this as a stipulation possibly, but it would be tough to mandate because the scheduling would be difficult, asking those teams to win a game against a Power 4 team. But then that would stipulate, Power 4 teams being willing to play good Power 6 teams.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
So, because I know you guys don't want to talk about basketball, but that's what the basketball teams run into. They have a hard time scheduling those games.
Yeah, and
but
we've heard that.
Numerous times. So to me, it's about being given the opportunity, not guaranteed a spot.
And I think that might be a good compromise there. Of the group of 5 gets their chance to play their way in, but if they don't, they don't. And we'll see. Obviously, as Cory said, all of this could be moot in a few years if the SEC and the Big Ten just decide to make their own tournament on the side. And of course, expansion is going to continue. But this, I'm sure, will be a debate as they get ready to possibly gear up to 24 teams. How many spots will the group of 5 get? 615-737-1025. Let's quickly go back to the phone lines. Kenny the mailman is called in. Kenny, thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
Jake, I'm glad you used the word debate because I'm your friendly neighborhood debate judge today.
I love
Both
it.
sides
All right.
get 10 points for their passion and their belief in their points. -1 for each for talking over each other.
I get -2, Kenny.
-3 for the name calling. I'm not going to say, but somebody there has sort of a short fuse and a live microphone.
I know it's me. It's me, Kenny. I'm sorry.
We've had to calm down Jake a lot back here.
But it is enjoyable if you don't talk over each other. But you know what? I know I'm the tiny, tiny minority, but I'm not. I refuse to be pulled into a passionate debate because I'm so disgusted at this growth. We need 2, no 4, no 8, no 12, no 16.
Yeah.
And it's just already spiraled out of control for what it was meant. They first said, well, we got to figure out a way to get number 1 and 2 to play. And how did we get here from there? Y'all have a great day.
Thank you for the call, Kenny. And I will say he hung up. I hope he's still listening. Kenny sent in the book Next Man Up to the studio a few months ago, and I finally got to start reading it on my honeymoon this week. So I'm enjoying it very much.
Like you really you guys had quite the romantic honeymoon.
I mean, sitting by the pool, it's better than scrolling through Twitter, right? Like reading a book is better than.
At least he was getting some sun.
Better than brain rotting by the pool. It's 615
Twitter.
737-1025 is the phone number. We will. We'll see where we go after this. Are you guys? Have you run out of stuff to say on this topic? I don't want to cut you off.
I feel like I've gotten out everything I need to say.
Okay, we will move back to the NFL.
I've said what I have to say. I respect what I know. I've said what I have to say. I respect what Parker has to say, and I think, like in politics, as Americans are divided, I think there is still much more that unites us than divides us. There's just some small things that we passionately disagree about, and that's what makes the country better. Is we find a way to step forward together.
As long as Saturday still feels like Saturday.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Saturdays for college football, Fridays for high school, Sundays for the NFL.
Amen. Amen to that. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Boxing fans, 1025 The Game and Team Boxing League have your chance to win tickets to see Nashville Smash take on the Boston Butchers at Municipal Auditorium on Saturday, May 23rd. 16 rounds and 16 fighters each go at it for 1 round of nonstop action. Text the keyword FIGHT, FIGHT, to the Game text line at 615-737-1025 to enter for your chance to win. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. Today, the Nashville Sounds face the Iowa Cubs at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35, and you can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure and Social Cantina. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, all friends here after the heated debate to start the hour. Good stuff overall. I see both sides of your arguments. I'm leaning Cory. They need to be allowed in. If they earn their way in, we will see how things pan out as expansion talks continue. Brett McMurphy did just report something that we were talking about earlier, that the Big 12 and the ACC are firmly stepping forward in support of 2014 playoffs. The teams that they're the conferences that don't get a lot of teams in want more teams to get in. Funny how that works.
You know who else will you know who else will be firmly for a 2014 playoff? The entire group of 6.
Yes, that is true. If they can be guaranteed 3 spots in a 2014 playoff?
No, I think they understand survival, and they understand that 24 is just likely to allow them continued access.
Yes, that's a good point, because throughout most seasons there is at least one group of 6 team that is ranked in the top 25, right? It's very rare to see the entire top 25 be only power conference teams. So I do think that a 2014 playoff will allow them access, even if there aren't more than they'll probably still get one auto bid, but that'll probably be it.
I know you want to talk about the NFL, but let me ask both of you a question here before we go, and not for debate. I just interested to know what your answer is.
Yeah.
I hear Parker. I hear the tone of his voice about a 2014 playoff. If it was each of your choice, how many teams would you invite to the college football playoff? I would set up a simple 16-team format, just like FCS made successful so long ago, and just leave it at that until the SEC and Big 12 move on. Or Big 10.
Yeah, I think at this point, 16 is probably the right number. Because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. I would say 8 would have been perfect. I think 8.
I could see that.
8 would have been my best number of. I think in any given year, there are probably no more than 10 teams that can win a national championship. And you may end up leaving some deserving teams out. Like this past year, Miami was the last team into the field. They went to the national championship game. I think 8 is the right number, but they're not going there. There's no going backwards at this point. So I think 16 would be my ideal spot.
Listen, I'm fine. I'm with you. I wanted 8 if we were going to expand at all. I never really wanted expansion in the first place, but now that it's here and you can't put the toothpaste back, I want to stick at 12, and I want to make that work. I don't think we need to expand anymore.
Yeah.
I like more games, more playoff games. So I would have been fine with 8. I wouldn't have had an argument, because seeing a team win it from outside that number, it would be surprising. But Miami made it to the championship game last year, outside of the 8. But now that you've also got a Power 4 conference instead of 5, I think it would be easier to justify 4 conference champions and then 4 wild cards. I think, whereas before you had 5 conferences and it limited, some of the wild card opportunities.
That is a very good point, that having the Pac-12 now relegated down to the group of 6 instead of being in the Power 5, now the Power 4, does make the math a little bit easier, I think. And I guess if they do go to 16, which they may just skip over it and go straight to 24, if they do go to 16 or 24, the question becomes, how many auto bids do each conference get? Are they going to do the play-in games that were talked about all last summer, where the third best team in the SEC plays the 6th best team in the SEC, and the winner gets an automatic bid to the playoff? I will say, to bring us all together before we officially wrap up this conversation, I am with you, Cory. Get rid of the conference championship games. In a playoff this big,
they are.
That's the only thing it can do is hurt you, and not just in terms of resume, but injuries and fatigue. I think what eventually is going to happen is they're going to replace the conference championship with some sort of play-in game for the SEC and the Big 10 to earn an automatic bid into the field.
Okay, that's possible.
Because they're not going to give up the money that comes from those games
No.
being on TV, right?
No.
Like the SEC.
But you get it by expanding the full playoff.
Yes. Yeah. And I guess that's true. If they did start with the playoff games on conference
24.
championship weekend, then sure. Yeah, it wouldn't, you wouldn't lose money there. But I do think the SEC wants its moment. They want to be in Atlanta where they're showing off the SEC exclusively. And I think it ends up being some sort of play-in game rather than a conference championship game. 615-7.
I guess that's possible.
Yeah, and who knows?
I guess that's possible. But I mean, I like games that matter, and those conference championship games don't matter.
Right, and that's why I think they're going to go by the wayside. Coaches don't want to play them. Like, was it Lane Kiffin, who we were talking about earlier, who said that they were kind of glad they didn't have to play in the SEC championship game last year because it gave them an extra.
Absolutely.
They felt good that they were going to be in the field, which they were, and they got an extra week to go rest instead of having to play that 13th game. So I do think that eventually those are going to be eliminated and probably replaced with either more playoff games or some sort of conference play-in games. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. Back into the NFL after this. I have a question for Cory and Parker. I don't think it'll get as much debate as the previous conversation, but we will see. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, wrapping up the second hour on your Wednesday morning. Back into the NFL here. Had a heated discussion about college football. I had a question that popped into my mind over the weekend, Cory, and I thought you would have some good thoughts on this. So we're getting set for the NFL schedule release, and of course, the divisional games play a big role in that. And the AFC South is always kind of a mystery. Even when there's teams that you look at and you say, all right, yeah, they had a good year last year. They've added. You really just never know with the AFC South who is going to end up being at the top, who's going to be at the bottom. I do think out of the rosters, the Titans are lagging a little bit behind, rebuilding. But this is a quarterback league, and all four of these teams are in very different situations with their quarterbacks. I wanted to get you and Parker's thoughts of over the next 5 years, we'll say, whose quarterback situation would you take? The Titans, the Jaguars, the Colts, or the Texans? Do we have Cory?
We should. I was going to.
Sorry. I was busy pondering. So Parker, go first, because this is a really good question. It's and much more difficult question than it should be.
So whose quarterback room?
Who's your starting quarterbacks? Who would you take? Like if you had to start a franchise and your options were Daniel Jones, C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward, in their current situations, who would you take?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna say, I want to say Cam Ward just because I believe he has the highest ceiling out of any of them, but I don't know, and I may think, but I don't know. So I am gonna say Trevor Lawrence as of right now, because you can see the clear growth under Liam Cohen. I believe he'll be able to get the best out of him, and I believe I don't know. There's a good situation in Houston, but C.J. Stroud's been struggling with turnovers.
Yeah, and that's what I think makes this so difficult is they're all in very different spots. Of course, with Cam Ward, you know less about him. He's only played one season, so there's a higher ceiling, but probably a lower floor. C.J. Stroud got off to such a great start. He was Rookie of the Year, but has regressed since then. Trevor Lawrence, with the exception of, I guess, last year, has kind of just been average since he entered the league. And then Daniel Jones, of course, was great before he got hurt last year. All of them have some significant pros, but I think there are also some serious negatives with all of them as well.
Yeah, they're all flawed. I mean, and that's, you're not trying to pick, between Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes here. And so, I think, and Parker brought this up, I think, or maybe it was you, Jake, I'm sorry, the unknown with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
The high ceiling with Cam Ward. I think for me, that is what makes him the most attractive, because I've seen what the other three have to offer. Okay. Trevor Lawrence is very average. Okay. He has not embraced that mantle from where he was drafted and produced at that level, has not elevated his team. Yes, they were better last year, but I need a lot more convincing that he's a top 10 quarterback, because I don't think any of us would say Trevor Lawrence is a top 10 quarterback at this point. Would you?
No, I don't think so. I'd have to bring up the list, but I would say he's probably he's top half of the league right now.
He's had two really good years out of his short career,
and two really mediocre ones.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you go to C.J. Stroud, who's going backwards. I mean, 2 years in a row, he's going backwards.
Yep.
So I don't want that. And then Daniel Jones, you saw the best of Daniel Jones, and it was really good. But are you convinced that it can continue long term? I need to see it. And then here's the biggest question. Do you think Lawrence, Stroud, or Jones are good enough to take their team to the Super Bowl? Last year, Stroud and Lawrence proved they weren't. Okay. In fact, Stroud lost the game.
Yeah.
Texans were good enough to win that game. He lost the game.
Right.
So unless your quarterback is good enough to win you the Super Bowl, my opinion is always the same as what's the point? What's the point?
Right.
And Cam Ward has to prove he can be that, but I'm willing to turn the page and go to Cam Ward and say, show me what you can do. The other three can watch.
And I might be fine with that too, honestly. It's between him and Trevor Lawrence.
I agree, because CJ Stroud is caught in that no man's land right now, which is probably the worst place to be with a quarterback of, man, we thought he was the franchise guy, but he hasn't really solidified it yet. And with Trevor Lawrence, I agree with you. Like, I think we know what Trevor Lawrence is at this point. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to take some massive jump and become Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or something like that. With Cam Ward, you at least have the runway of a few more years of his rookie deal to figure it out. And so that's why I think Cam Ward is the pick with the highest upside. If I had to guess, if you told me one of these 4 quarterbacks wins the Super Bowl in the next 5 years, I think I might guess it was Cam Ward, right? Just because of the unknown there of what he's going to do heading into year 2. But if you ask me the safest pick, I think it would be Trevor Lawrence of like, hey, who has the lowest chance of being a complete bust? I think it would be Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe and it's average.
Right.
And an average is always just good enough to get you fired.
Right. So I think this is an interesting debate, and this year is going to be huge for a lot of these quarterbacks. Of course, Cam Ward, year 2 in the league, CJ Stroud trying to prove that he is what he looked like in 2023 rather than the last 2 seasons where he's taken a step back. And then Trevor Lawrence, yeah, they went 13-4 last year, and he was pretty good. 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 4,000 yards. But the year before,
where did he finish in MVP voting? Because he was a finalist.
He was 5th.
Yeah.
He did get
it wouldn't get a vote from me. And by the way, guys, the Bears are prime, and the Bears are my team, and I fully embrace it. They're prime for a pullback because of the schedule. The Patriots are prime for a pullback because of the schedule, and now the Jaguars are also going to be now facing a much tougher schedule than they have in the past. And
no way they get to 13 wins this year.
Oh, I would agree with that. I can look quickly at their season opponents. The Jaguars will face at home. They have to face the Patriots, the Eagles, Steelers, Commanders, Browns. So nothing. Obviously, you're only getting 3 opponents that have to do with your divisional standing, which for them are the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Bears. That is a tough trio of teams compared to the Titans, who are getting the Jets, the Lions, and the Raiders.
But that takes you from 13-4 to 10-7.
Right. So I think Trevor Lawrence is probably your in the middle. Like, if you want safe, probably going to be your starter for the next 5 years. Great. But maybe not a whole lot of upside. I think it's him. I do think Daniel Jones and CJ Stroud are intriguing heading into this year, and we can talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025. We'll also talk Preds in the final hour as we continue to wait on an announcement of a new general manager and much more in our final hour of the show here on this Wednesday. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelley with you on this Wednesday, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Been a fun show so far. We started the conversation at the end of the last hour about the quarterbacks in the AFC South, all of them in very different spots, but all interesting heading into 2026. I asked, if you had to build a franchise around one, who would you pick? And I think we kind of agreed that Cam Ward, just because of the runway that you have to see his growth, rather than kind of knowing what these guys are, might be the most intriguing option. But I did want to touch on CJ Stroud here, because the Texans are a team that has the talent to compete for a Super Bowl this year, I think, if CJ Stroud is back to what we saw his rookie season. That defense is elite. They've got solid weapons for him. It's been CJ Stroud and a revolving door along the offensive line that's been an issue for them. And so far, I'm more inclined to believe CJ Stroud is more of what we saw the last 2 years than the great start when he won Rookie of the Year back in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to prove otherwise. I was talking to Parker during the break, and the comp I have for him right now is Marcus Mariota. Marcus looked so brilliant in year 2, and then just, whether because of injury or whatever, faded each year. And, we saw this huge performance from CJ Stroud as a rookie, but as the years go on, it's looking more and more like an aberration. And so for him, he's got to pull out of a nosedive. I mean, his plane is headed straight for the ground. And I'll ask you what I asked Parker. If you got $100 in front of you and you've got to put it on yes or no, when you look at the Texans this season, yes or no, does CJ Stroud get replaced by Davis Mills at some point?
Ooh.
It was tough.
That is tough, because it's just the way last season ended has to be difficult for him this offseason, right? Like just basically giving away that game against the Patriots with the turnovers, setting them up with short fields. Patriots did almost nothing on offense in that game, but they had easy opportunities to score because of CJ Stroud. I'm going to say no. Like, if I had to pick one or the other, I think I'd say no. But there's a much better chance that it happens than you would like, or you would have expected, being a Texans fan, given what CJ Stroud did back in his rookie season.
So that answers the question about Houston and CJ Stroud in this conversation.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about benching Danny Jones or Trevor Lawrence, but the mere thought of benching CJ Stroud is there.
Yeah.
It's a part of the conversation. Whether you're sitting there at home saying they're not going to replace him, it's a conversation. He was painfully bad to finish last year. That team had a chance to play in the Super Bowl. They did with adequate quarterback play. I mean, could you imagine that Houston team going to Denver,
right,
playing against Jarrett Stidham?
Yeah,
they absolutely would have been in the Super Bowl with adequate quarterback play. So, I think there's a ton of pressure on, and I think the other important consideration you guys hear is this: what did the Texans do this year? They picked up his 5th-year option, right?
Yep.
But they didn't give him they have not extended his contract yet.
Yeah, usually after year 3, that's when you start to know with these quarterbacks, and not knowing is probably worse than knowing that he's not the guy. Yeah. This is clearly an important year for CJ Stroud if he wants to prove he is the franchise quarterback and get that massive extension. If I had to guess which way it's going to end up this year, though, I think they're going to be in a similar spot. I think CJ Stroud is going to be fine, but not great. And they may end up in a spot like the Titans did with Marcus Mariota. I think that's a good comp for him. All right.
They did the same thing. They picked up his option, but they didn't sign him long term.
And heading into that 5th-year option season, they said, all right, you're our starting quarterback. We're going to give it to you, but we're bringing in Ryan Tannehill. And he's going to be our backup plan, because we think we have a team that is good enough to make a run. And as the Titans proved, they were right. They made it to the AFC Championship that year. I do think that CJ Stroud will be the starting quarterback week 1 for the Texans in 2027, but it wouldn't shock me if they go out and get a veteran to be that safety blanket in case they have to pull the plug at some point in his 5th season.
Do you think they'll get somebody, or, I mean, you're talking about next year or this year?
Next year.
Okay. Because I say they like Davis Mills. They've always liked Davis Mills. I don't think that Davis Mills is necessarily the guy to get him to the Super Bowl too, but I think they might want to see what he looks like with this roster on the field. Because, as you're shopping, the Ryan Tannehills don't come along every day.
Right.
You don't get a chance to acquire a starting quarterback for, what was it, a 4th round pick? Those situations don't happen all the time.
No, that's very true. But I think there will be somebody out there, like a guy I would give the example of is like Mac Jones, who's been kind of hot lately as a possible starter, but hasn't been traded, probably not going to start this year, but he'll be a free agent after next year. And maybe that's somebody they bring in to compete with CJ Stroud. Let's talk Daniel Jones here, because I think he is really strange, right? Like he was completely given up on after getting that extension in New York. They cut him mid-season. He goes to the Vikings to go through the Kevin O'Connell quarterback class at the end of the 2024 season. Then last year, they're great when he's on the field, but tears the Achilles. They give him that short 2-year extension. I more believe that Daniel Jones was a flash in the pan last year than somebody who's going to revive his career like a Sam Darnold or a Ryan Tannehill that's just going to find second life somewhere else. But he did look really good when he was out there last year. They were 8-2 at one point, 9-2. So it's going to be something to really keep an eye on with the Colts this year. Is he going to be the same quarterback coming off that Achilles injury that got the Colts off to such a great start?
Well, evidence would say he will not be this year, because we saw Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins try to come back from the same injury. And their first years back, they did not look like themselves. They are considerably older than Daniel Jones, but still playing quarterback, the push off, the trust in it. Those are two really, really, really big things. So you'd have to think that. Now, if I'm the Colts, do I understand why they're sticking with it? Yeah, because like you said, I mean, there was one point last season where people were wondering if they were the best team in football.
Right. Especially, I mean, the 2 games they played the Titans, they looked like the best team in football. I mean, the first one in Nashville was a blowout basically from the start when Cam Ward threw the pick 6. And then the game in Indianapolis was just an offensive beatdown with Jonathan Taylor running wild, and Daniel Jones was a great facilitator, but obviously things fell off a cliff after he had like the shin injury or something like that, and they had him play through it, and then he tore the Achilles, which tough. But yeah, you're right.
I think he had a broken leg that he was trying to
play that's through. What it was. Yeah, he had a fractured leg and was trying to play through it and ended up tearing his Achilles. So
it was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And I was saying that before the injury happened. I mean, it was a short-sighted decision.
Well, you know why they did it though. It's because Chris Ballard went all in with the 2 first-round picks to get Sauce Gardner, and it's like, man, I just went all in.
9-2.
I can't fold now and bench my quarterback in something that they thought he could play through. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. It was the wrong choice, but I think that was going through their mind is we just pushed our chips to the center of the table to get Sauce Gardner. Do we just, fold on the season and start Riley Leonard?
What's better, being 9-5 with a quarterback with a broken leg, or being 9-5, giving him 3 weeks to heal before you put him back out there?
Right. No, it's obviously was a bad decision, and the Colts now. That roster is solid, but the quarterback question will loom of, is Daniel Jones going to be healthy? And beyond that, it's Riley Leonard and Anthony Richardson still in that room. Is that it?
Oh my God. I can't imagine Anthony Richardson still on the team when the season gets here.
Me neither. I thought, as I thought with Will Levis, I thought he was going to get traded during the draft, but he is still there. We'll see.
They don't have any value, Jake. That's the problem. And so neither team is encouraged to deal them, because at this point they're not worth anything. So if you give them a chance to play in the preseason they may prove they're worth something. But I could definitely see a Kyle Shanahan or a Kevin O'Connell taking a shot on an Anthony Richardson and see if they can chip away at that
Yeah,
exterior.
the Colts social media team during like mini camp and OTAs needs to get some clips of Anthony Richardson just wearing like shorts and a t-shirt, firing balls 80 yards downfield, and see if that drives up his trade value. It clearly drove up his trade stock, his draft stock. We'll see. We'll see if he can get traded before the season starts. 615-737-1025. The AFC South always is one of the more interesting divisions in the league, even if it's not, some of the best football. You just never know where it's going to go. And I think if I had to lean one way or the other, I'd go Texans are the favorite just because that defense is so good. But the Jaguars could compete again. Maybe the Colts if Daniel Jones is back there. I don't think the Titans are competing for the division, but I do think they won't go 0-6 in the division this year.
I agree with you just because the Texans defense is so decisive. Their trade for David Montgomery says they're going to try to run the football more.
Yeah.
They've tried to address the run game. CJ Stroud doesn't have to be great. He just has to not lose games this year.
Right.
The Jaguars have lost some significant pieces. They've already put up the white flag on Travis Hunter, where he's just going to play defense. So, and they're playing a tougher schedule. So I need to see where that takes them. If I had to pick like I said, we saw the Colts and what they could do, but I don't know what Daniel Jones is going to be. So I would take the Texans as well.
615-737-1025 is the phone number, our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 1025 The Game's Chase and Big Joe Show will be broadcasting live today at Nash Dogs at 1427 Robinson Road. Nash Dogs now serving at their Old Hickory Cafe, plus catering, corporate events, and food truck bookings. Find out more at NashDogs.com. Stop by, and you could win tickets to see the Nashville Smash take on the Boston Butchers in the Team Boxing League at Municipal Auditorium on May 23rd. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley. We'll dive into the Preds a little bit when we come back here on Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley with you. A few more segments on this Wednesday morning. Let's talk.
That's a peace offering if I ever heard one.
Yeah, I saw Parker getting this ready. I was like, I feel like this is made specifically for Cory.
Yeah, we're hugging it out.
Well, last week he wanted me because I played Michael Jackson, and I'm not gonna say that he's not the biggest fan of Michael Jackson, but
I'm not.
He wanted more testosterone. That was his exact words.
Gotcha.
So,
Blondie. I don't remember what the song was, but no, I respect Michael Jackson as an artist for sure, but I was not as into him as everyone else was. And I say the same thing for Prince. And I know people think Prince is a musical genius, and I appreciate that. He wasn't for me.
I think there is something to be said of appreciating somebody's musical talent and liking their music are very different, right? Like everybody has different tastes. You can appreciate that somebody is very good at what they do, but just not like them all that much. I understand what you're saying there, Cory.
Okay. Thanks, man.
I don't know what Parker, was somebody upset with the Prince comment there?
Yes, Nick Frazier walked into the room and he was like, "Cory, what are we doing?"
Well, no, I mean, look, I understand. I mean, I know the majority of people love Prince and I consider him a musical genius, and I don't dispute that. But I don't love the Yankees, and they are the flagship for Major League Baseball,
right?
And the Dodgers. I remain a Cubs fan. I will take it to my grave. So there's a different flavor for everybody, and that's okay. I didn't say Prince is terrible.
Right.
Now, I just said not for me. That's all.
100%. I think that is a fair evaluation of it. We'll have to get TD's thoughts on this tomorrow. Cory, let's talk Preds here. The GM search continues. The Predators still looking for the successor for Barry Trotz. Yesterday, there was a report that came out. I believe it was from Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects that said Nashville has circled in on an assistant GM already in the playoffs as their GM, and basically said a decision has been made. That was the report that came out yesterday. Elliot Friedman on his 32 Thoughts podcast earlier today, and I'm reading from a tweet of Alex Doherty who quoted this. There were rumors about Darren York, the assistant GM in Carolina, going to Nashville yesterday. He's told those are not true. That's not the way it's going to go. So I don't know what the Predators are circling in on. It seems like it's been in the final stages for a while, but still no decision on who the GM is. Maybe it is an assistant GM who is still in the playoffs, but Elliot Friedman says it does not seem to be Darren York with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And when you look at like your candidates and people, the teams that all of a sudden got good are the ones you're always like, oh, who are the guys who got them good? And that's easy to look at. But I would rather look at a team with like sustained success, like I don't know the name of the guy. Who's the guy who took over for the Ravens in the NFL?
Eric DeCosta.
Yeah, Eric DeCosta. He took over, and of course he was already in-house.
Right.
But, there's a reason people looked at him as a candidate because he was there with sustained success. Mike Borgonzi was an attractive candidate because he was with the Chiefs through a series of sustained success. And I guess that's why my way of saying I would be leery of that person if he was with Montreal or Buffalo, two teams that are kind of new to the party here.
Yeah.
I'd be looking more at, the Colorado Avalanche, and some of those teams that have had sustained success over the years and how they've put their product together.
I would agree with that. And I know there's also been talk about Tom Fitzgerald, the former GM of the New Jersey Devils, who of course was the first captain of the Predators. I do wonder if he is brought here, but maybe not as the GM. We've had this conversation before, I think, Cory, of like having the director or the president of hockey operations and a GM. Maybe that's where Tom Fitzgerald would fit into this, where you can go get one of those ascending guys from an organization like Colorado or Edmonton or something like that, and pair them with a guy who's done the job before in Tom Fitzgerald. I don't know. It's just an idea, but, I think the Predators have cast a pretty wide net with what they're looking for right now.
Well, I hope it's a wide net. They've been looking forever. And
yes,
if the person that they're hiring is just making them wait until the playoffs are over, then I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think you could also still make that announcement and say he'll join us when the playoffs end.
That's what I was kind of confused about yesterday, and I saw Adam Vingan tweeted this too, of if it was Darren York with Carolina, they swept Philadelphia. They're off for like a week before they play their next game. I feel like he could be introduced and then say, you know, we'll speak with him when the Hurricanes run is over. But
well, and what role does he play in the playoffs? He's the assistant GM.
Right.
They're not bringing any players in.
It's a very good point. Yeah, it's different when you're hiring an assistant coach versus an assistant GM. The job of the assistant GM is pretty much in the past at this point. You're not really making many roster changes. So the Predators, it's been months now since they began this GM search. 2 teams have already fired and hired new GMs since the Preds announced that Barry Trotz was stepping down. I would hope that we get a resolution on this in the coming days or weeks as the NHL draft approaches at the end of June. Still plenty of time there, and the Predators will have the 10th pick. We'll continue talking Preds on the other side. Whoever the next GM is, this is a very important offseason for the Predators. What is going to be the biggest question facing them as soon as they step into that chair? We'll talk about it next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, Cory Curtis, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final half hour on your Wednesday morning. Jake Lyman joined by Cory Curtis from News 2. Parker Kelley at the controls. Talking Preds here. Lots of great college football and Titans conversation earlier on in the show. You can find that on the YouTube channel or the podcast. But for the Predators, obviously the big question right now is who is going to be the next GM. Barry Trotz stepping down. They've done an extensive search looking for the next man. But Cory, I wanted to know, in your mind, when the next GM sits down in his office for the first time, what is the most important question for the Predators this offseason that he has to address immediately?
Wow. I wish I'd had some time to think that one over. You could have warned me on that.
I thought I did on the teaser.
I guess, we know the most important thing with the team is, do these young players that are coming up become part of the core of it? But UC Saros is who UC Saros is. I think the number one question I've got is, how do we get our defense better? How do we get our defense at a level that we're accustomed to seeing the Nashville Predators play? Because UC Saros, while a good goaltender, has shown that he is not good enough to erase all of the mistakes that the defense may make, like the way a Pekka Rinne, might have been at points in his career. So I would say, while we continue to groom some youngsters here, what would your plan be for the defense this season?
I think that is an important question, because clearly that has been an issue, less so this past season than the year before, where the defense was atrocious at times. I think, and this could be built into the GM search, because I'm sure the question is being asked in these interviews of, what are your thoughts on Andrew Brunette? But I do think as soon as the GM is hired, a decision has to be made one way or the other on whether Brunette will be back coaching the Predators next year.
I guess I didn't put that at the top of my list, because I kind of view it as a foregone conclusion that the new GM will bring in his own coach after missing the playoffs for 2 years. Now, he may like Andrew Brunette, and he may think, what? He hasn't achieved, but my line of thinking and what I want to see from the team aligns with him, and I need to change the roster more to fit his coaching than he needs to change his coaching to fit the roster.
Yeah, and Andrew Brunette has done some good things since he's been here. This season, getting the Preds back into the playoff hunt after the horrible start, given how last season had gone, you have to give Andrew Brunette credit for that. But I do kind of agree with you that I just think new guy going to want to bring in his coach. We just saw it. I believe it was this morning. The Maple Leafs announced that they're making a coaching change after bringing in a new general manager. I think that's just typically how it goes. Andrew Brunette was a Barry Trotz guy. The results have not lived up to the talent that's on the roster. So I could see a world where he's back, but if I had to lean one way or the other, I think that the new GM is going to want to bring in his own coach.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I guess another question might be, what are you going to do with Jonathan Marchessault?
Right.
You don't hire a GM based on that decision.
No, I don't think that is top of mind, but that definitely is something that needs to be addressed in this offseason. I guess that kind of plays into the long-term outlook of this team. Steven Stamkos's comments during locker room cleanout made it seem like the administration and the organization had said they want to compete moving forward, but
they need to.
Actions do speak louder than words, and if you do trading Jonathan Marchessault wouldn't be a huge loss, but if you trade Ryan O'Reilly, obviously that shows you that maybe they want to embrace the youth movement next year, even if it means they're not towards the top of the standings.
Along those lines, another question might be, do you want to see these core young players, Brady Martin, Tanner Molendyke, who's the other ones out there? Schaefer. There's the young Russian kid,
right?
Do you want to see them marinate in Milwaukee, or would you rather see them, jump into the frying pan here and develop their game at the highest level? I think because that is an area where this team's, identity and mantra could change. Because Barry always has been a guy who, to leave them in Milwaukee, he'd rather leave them down there longer than necessary than bring them up too soon.
Right. He's always said that he leans towards overcooking the prospects rather than undercooking them.
Yes.
But I think it does just depend on the player. Like we saw Matthew Wood this year. He didn't spend a whole lot of time in Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken.
Just during the break.
Right. He was
during the Olympic break.
He was very thrown into the fire, and he succeeded early. He worked through some struggles and then came back and finished the season really strong. Clearly, developing his game at the NHL level was helpful. But you just don't know. Like Brady Martin only got to play a couple of games down with Milwaukee at the end of the season. He did he get there at all?
He got called up late.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like I remember him playing there. Tanner Molendijk he's dealt with some injuries, but he had an up and down season down in Milwaukee last year. I do think those two guys, if they don't make the roster out of camp, I think that is a little bit concerning. Just because Molendijk, you invest a first-round pick in him. He's been talked about for the last few seasons. Didn't get a chance to play at the NHL level this year. And then Brady Martin, of course, is being viewed as a possible centerpiece of this organization. And when you see a guy like Porter Martone scoring playoff goals for the Flyers this year, and Brady Martin playing very infrequently for the first few games and then being sent back to juniors, you'd like to see him contribute next year to the NHL team. I would like it out of camp, but I would also understand if maybe it takes a couple of weeks in Milwaukee.
I would be very disappointed if those two young men were not on the roster when the season started.
Yep.
One's a very high draft pick. One's been a much heralded prospect. I think that you need to see them meet expectations. Okay, this team needs players. On offense and on defense. Show me that you're a player. Matthew Wood, Luke Evangelista. They've shown that there is room to grow.
Yep. But
they are also players, and I think you need to afford these young men the same thing. Give fans a glimpse of the future. You don't do make roster decisions for the fans, but I think that's an added bonus in there. I guess, and you could tell me what you think. I would rather see Brady Martin out there than some, third or fourth line veteran grinder.
Yeah.
Okay. Who I can replace on a year in and year out basis. Like the 5 guys, was it 4 or 5 guys that they cast off at the trade deadline that everybody got all upset about?
Yeah.
Who are all entirely replaceable and could actually all be brought back in the offseason because they'll all be free agents. I'd rather see Brady Martin out there than one of those guys. Yeah. I'd rather see Tanner Molendijk skating on my third line than just some veteran because I needed a 6th guy I believed, wasn't going to kill me out there. I'd rather see him, take his lumps and learn to elevate his game than that. That's me though. And I'm not coaching and I'm not GMing for my job.
No. And I agree with you there. I do think if the new GM does clean house and brings in his own coach and moves on from Andrew Brunette, then it does put them on the same timeline where you might have more leeway to do something like that and say, I think Eric Haula is a good example of that kind of veteran. They brought him in on a 1-year deal last year. And I think we can all agree Eric Haula was a fine player for this team and probably could have gotten some value at the trade deadline. But if the choice is between bringing Eric Haula back to be your third line center versus Brady Martin, maybe starting as your third line center and hopefully working his way up, I would definitely rather see the young guy take his lumps early and hopefully grow into a player who is far beyond what an Eric Haula is, rather than say, let's go with the safer guy right now because he's going to help us win games at this moment. I think Brady Martin is going to have to learn on the job a little bit, and hopefully that makes him a better player in the long run.
Yes. And look, if he doesn't, you want to present him with the challenge. As the 5th overall pick, you think he is the answer to the challenge. And so you want to present him with the challenge and see if he has what it takes inside to step up and get better. I mean, that's what great players do. When presented with an obstacle that, that they haven't faced before, they learn to elevate their game. I mean, the list of players who do that is is endless, of great players who, were presented an obstacle or got, whacked over the head one or two times and they got better. I don't think, the Predators should be afraid of that. You drafted him 5th overall for a reason. You believed in him. You saw him in the preseason. You saw him in some early regular season games. And I know the thought was, well, we don't want him playing 11 minutes a game. I would love to have seen him play 11 minutes a game.
Me too. I was a little disappointed that he was sent back to junior so early when he hadn't even reached the quota on the games he was allowed yet. And I know
they were afraid to let him play in Canada, and I'm like, come on, guys, this guy's been playing in front of crowds for years.
Right,
just let the kid play.
And hopefully he gets more of an opportunity heading into year 2, and along with a lot of the young guys. I don't think they're going to go full on sell off and get rid of all of the veterans, but I do think there should be an emphasis on the young players heading into next year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Last call for phones. We got one more segment here on this Wednesday morning. We'll wrap up the show after this. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Wednesday. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelley with you. Been a fun show. Tomorrow on the show, it is a TD Thursday. Teron Davenport will join us for all 3 hours for schedule reveal day. I'm sure we will be getting some leaks throughout the morning and into the afternoon before the official reveal tomorrow evening. Cory, if you had to guess right now, give me week 1 and the final game in Nissan Stadium. What would you predict?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, week 1, I still got the New York Jets.
Yep. I think I'm with you there.
And the last game at Nissan Stadium, I mean, if we're really going to do this right, it's got to be a color rush game with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
See, I would like that if they just brought back the color rush uniforms for one last game.
Say goodbye to a horrible era.
I'm going to guess it's the Houston Texans, though.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I guess I'm anticipating that it would be week 18. It doesn't have to be a divisional opponent if the Titans finish the year on the road. But I think they might let the Titans go out with a game against the Texans.
Yeah, historically, the last few years, they've really ramped up the AFC South schedule that last month of the season. And, the only danger is, it being a meaningless game, but that's the danger no matter who they play. But I think the NFL likes the sauciness and the pettiness of that rivalry. And so I think that could be a good way to send it out as well.
Yeah, especially with the Titans uniforms now being more Oilers-esque, it might add to that rivalry a little bit, at least among the fans. Obviously, the players don't care.
Think?
But
the fans,
the fans, I think, will be into that. Most likely a meaningless game. You hope not. Most likely a meaningless game, but it would be the final game in Nissan Stadium. Before we wrap up, I did want to touch on some of the playoffs going on here. Last night, did you watch any of that Sabres-Canadiens game?
I had it on in the background. I did not get a chance to see it. Buffalo won, right?
Yes, they did. They won 3-2.
3-2.
It's going back to Buffalo even. The Tage Thompson goal off of the wall, the glass that bounced in is one of the craziest goals I've ever seen. I guess it was the spot where they take the Zamboni out. So the glass was a little uneven and it ricocheted and shot off the pad of Jakub Dobiš and into the net to tie the game at 2. If you're going to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you need a little bit of luck. That was a lot of luck for the Buffalo Sabres.
You say that, it's true, but some of those guys are extremely skilled in the way they play that back wall, setting themselves up for shots, most of the time not trying to get it in, but, setting themselves up for good shots in the net, trying to get the goalie to commit to one side, the puck comes back out over the other. I don't know what the plan was there, but, like I said, I won't disparage their ability to use that back wall. And didn't David, you weren't here for this. I think there was one time where David Legwand was behind the net and the goalkeeper wasn't looking, and he shot the puck up over the back of the net, off the back of the keeper's back and into the net.
No, you make a good point of these guys are very skilled, and there are sometimes you look and you say, there's no way he meant to do that, right? I don't think Tage Thompson meant to put it in. I'm sure he did mean to give somebody a chance at a shot. But the bank was open, and the Sabres were able to get the win up there. They head back to Buffalo with a 2-2 series.
Gosh, that's going to be quite a crowd.
Yeah, I mean, how about those two fan bases going at it?
Yeah.
The Montreal fans were electric last night, and of course Buffalo. That long-suffering fan base is hoping that they can at least make it one step further. I'm not sure if anybody's going to beat Carolina or Colorado to get to the Stanley Cup final, though. Those two teams seem like the very best right now. Obviously, things happen that we don't expect, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but those two teams just look like buzzsaws right now.
Yeah, they look like juggernauts. You're absolutely right.
Carolina 8-0, and they await the winner of that Buffalo and Montreal series. And on the other side, Colorado and Minnesota. It is 3-1 in that series. The Avs will look to finish it off at home, while Vegas won in overtime last night. So they go up 3-2. And we discussed it yesterday. Preds fans, as much as they may not want to, should be rooting for Vegas, because if they advance past this round, I believe the Nick Hague pick improves from a 3rd to a 2nd.
Oh, wow. Wow. And as many high-end picks as the Preds have to get another one, that would be tremendous. Now, having said all that, is Torts coaching Vegas now, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he was the replacement.
Yeah. So that firing and then bringing in the part-time coach seems to be working, because, I mean, we'd have to call Vegas the surprise of the playoffs right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was it kind of like mid-February when the entire Pacific Division was crumbling and Vegas was the worst of them?
I think they had 5 games left when they fired the coach.
They had a stretch where they didn't score in 3 straight games or something like. I remember the Preds were getting ready to face them, and they hadn't scored in 3 straight games or something like that. So they have really turned it around. You're right, with Torts behind the bench now, and they're 1 game away from getting back to the Western Conference Finals, where they will take on either the Avalanche or the Wild. I will say I listened to a clip from the Sportsnet call of that that banked in goal from Tage Thompson last night, and you can just tell the Canadians as a country, Canadian citizens, they are rallying around Montreal. It's the last Canadian team they've got left, especially with the U.S. winning in the Olympics this past year. You know that entire country wants to finally get the cup back up north. But Montreal is the last team standing, and obviously going to be tough for them to make it there.
I'm seeing a tweet now from Brett McMurphy that should make you and especially Parker very happy.
Yeah.
ACC Commissioner Jim, and this is from Brett McMurphy. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said ESPN does not want the playoffs to expand past 16 teams. ESPN's made it clear they want it to stay at 12 or 14, but no more than 16. So, that's keeping it down. We've all said about how 12 would be okay. I said I'd be okay at 16. It sounds like, and listen, if he's saying 16 is the max, then that's where it's probably going to go, but it won't be 24.
Yeah, I struggle.
Stand your ground, ESPN.
I don't think they're going to jump straight from 12 to 24, but I think 16 is inevitable, and once you get to 16, you're probably going to 24 at some point anyway. So what a way to wrap up what's been a fun show. The 10 o'clock hour got spicy with some debate over college football playoff expansion and who should be involved. But, Cory, it's always great having you on. We will do it again next week.
All right, I'll come in next week and I'll bring more toys this time.
There we go. Cory gonna load
Face
up
me
the
like
studio.
a man, Cory. Let's do it.
That does it for us.
I'm gonna have my lightsaber.
There we go. Lightsaber duel live in studio. I think that needs to happen. TD is in with us for tomorrow.
He's got to have one.
That's true. You got to bring your own.
I
Parker.
actually don't have one, so.
Chase and Big Joe are coming up
One-sided
next.
fight.
Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.